And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. Welcome back from the weekend. Today, joined by Erica and Josh. It's going to be a great show. Today, we're going to be covering some updates on the LA fires, talking about some people fleeing the ship, as it were, Vance's interview on Fox, which I thought was excellent,
Oh, so good.
and maybe a little bit of Rogan at the end. So,
Josh has an upside down smile this morning. What's going on, Josh?
grumpy Josh today?
No, of course not.
That's never happened on this show.
No, I feel sorry for my wife though. Snow day in northern Michigan. Come on. So she's got all the
weak.
kids. She's having to deal with all of them today. So poor.
I'm so jealous. We got like an inch over the weekend and it melted by midday. We need our snow. Come on, Connecticut. Little Connecticut confetti. Come on.
Yeah. Well, at least we're not dealing with fire. So
Yeah.
prayers up to everyone who's in
Oh my
LA
gosh.
still going on. The death toll is rising at this point, up to 24, the last that I saw. So I'm just going to give an update of where we're at because the fires are still rolling. Still 3 active fires in California, which as of now have burned at least 40,000 acres and killed at least 24 people. Over 150,000 people have been evacuated from their homes. The Santa Ana winds, which died down slightly, are expected to increase in intensity once more, reaching gusts of up to 70 miles an hour. However, there is a cool weather in the forecast this week, which authorities hope will quell the flames. As of this morning, the largest wildfire, the Palisades fire, is 13% contained, and the Eaton fire is 33% contained. Not ideal. Still
Not
going
great.
on.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've been covering this for over a week now. And just to watch the devastation and some of those photos, it looks like remember watching Ken Burns' Civil War when you were little and the pictures of Richmond at the end of the war, and it's just chimneys and in these heaps of rubble. That's what one of the wealthiest areas in the country looks like right now. And
Yeah.
they're shocking images. It's just a tragedy.
Totally. Ken Burns documentaries, I ripped those when I was on long trips with my family because they were long. It was like, we got a 12-hour drive coming up. Ken Burns Civil War documentary. I remember falling asleep to those.
Oh, I love your mom. That's
Speaking of, not speaking of, but so there's so many elements, right? I mean, the mismanagement, the blame game, we're going to get to that. But one thing that I really cannot wrap my mind around, and I honestly don't even know where this is coming from, we're seeing some really crazy looting going on.
Yeah.
Arrests all over the place. I saw the one that really, it's not, I mean, it's you either laugh or you cry at this point. There's someone disguised as a firefighter among 29 arrested for looting homes destroyed in fires. I mean, I have a picture here. I can't believe that. When did we get to this place in our country where people would have so little pride to disguise themselves as a firefighter and then go in and try to loot homes?
Yeah, I got to tell you, if I were the mayor of a city like that in this kind of an emergency situation, and there was a guy falsely dressed as a firefighter and he was looting. Is that what you're saying? He was looting?
Yeah. One of the 30 arrested for looting.
Yeah, no, he'd be hung before sundown. That would be it. And people would know there's no monkey business going on in my town.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like impersonating a cop. Isn't that worse?
Yes,
like
of course.
Impersonating
any first responder is a crime.
Big time. I mean, you'd get extra stuff on top of looting.
Yes,
course, right?
Absolutely.
And I know that there's also some reports going around of many of these being actually illegal immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about exacerbating the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked that this is happening. One, it happens every time there's a natural disaster. The difference is LA has gone with the management that it has been under, the government, the failed state that it has been for the last upteen years. I mean, their crime rates were already through the roof. The homelessness rates were through the roof before a natural disaster struck. So, of course, that element of society, and not to sound like an elitist, but I'm an East Coast elitist, that element of society that is already in the underground, of course they're going to take advantage of.
Well, it's a sanctuary city. I mean, they're not cooperating with the federal law enforcement and immigration enforcement. Not that we have immigration enforcement under the Biden administration anyway, but yeah. So you've got hundreds of thousands of people in the Los Angeles area, probably millions, who are in the country illegally. Like,
Right. Which is why I think the death toll is going to be so much higher than the 24 we're seeing. I mean, there's just so many people there we don't even know are there that it's going to be even higher. And to me, it was like, oh, they're actually arresting people in Los Angeles? Well, I
Yeah.
guess it
well,
finally pushed them over the
in
edge.
terms of the numbers, I mean, the hospitals and the coroner's offices and all that will give full numbers, even if they don't know
Mhm.
the identification of people. So
Yeah.
those numbers will continue to go up. I agree with you, but
Have you guys seen the videos of, I believe recently LA County changed their enforcement policy to actually punish looting, or sorry, not looting, shoplifting.
Yeah,
So
in
because
San Francisco,
the
right?
county, I think it's the county below or county near Orange County, right on the border, they always punished shoplifting.
that's right.
And then LA County, I think it was up to the shoplifters knew the dollar amount that they
Well,
could
if
shoplift
it was
up to.
under like $1,000, then you could do
Right.
it, and it wouldn't they wouldn't prosecute against it. But that was an initiative on the state ballot. So voters throughout the state of California made it a crime, and now the police could enforce it because their hands were tied before that, and it was just there was no sense in trying to prosecute it. You know, you have these Soros-backed DAs, especially in Los Angeles. Again, that's what like when we're going to get to this a little bit later, but like President Biden giving an award for for freedom to George Soros. This guy has done more to unleash havoc and chaos in this country on purpose. It's not like it's an accident. He putting in these radical district attorneys in places like Los Angeles, and so they wouldn't prosecute crimes. And so then voters had to go to the extreme measure of passing a ballot measure and saying no. And so now the cops are like, great, now we can actually do this again. Now we're actually going to prosecute these shoplifters. We don't have to wait for them to get over $1,000 for us to actually do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the videos of the dash cam are so they're funny. It actually makes you laugh. Like the shoplifters on the dash cam are like, wait, I thought you were just going to give me a citation and then let me go. That's what they did before. And they're like,
Right.
you're in Orange County. We actually
Yeah.
prosecute that here. Like, oh my
There's
gosh.
the one of the two young women, they're probably 18, 19, 20, and they're sitting in the back and they're handcuffed. And one of them is like, wait, it's a felony? And the other one's like, yeah, new laws. And then like, I can't say the word, but she got new laws. And she's like, what? I thought I could go 950. And she's like, no,
Yeah, that's
this
right.
is Orange County. They don't play.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Welcome to Orange County.
Welcome to OC.
Jeez. Although I did also see that looters got a hold of some Humvees. I
From an army
think it was a reserve.
base or reserve base. Oh my gosh.
3
300.
Wow.
Humvees, other military equipment stolen from an Army Reserve Center
Not
in
good.
Tustin, California earlier this week. Entered a storage warehouse at the Army Reserve Center and grabbed some Humvees. Crazy. Man, what a wild ride. And of course, the blame game's going around at this point. And the New York Times actually wrote an article. Whether or not, what you think about the New York Times? I mean, say what you want. I need to just speak to you guys about this. Is this a new phenomenon of mayors of cities going to other countries regularly? Now, Karen Bass, this New York Times article, before taking office, LA mayor said she would not go abroad. Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles has been criticized for being out of the country when wildfires broke out. 3 years ago, she's promised in an interview to cut back on her world travel and focus on the city. Now, for those keeping track at home, who's funding these trips? It's taxpayer funding. She's taken 5+ trips abroad, most recent one being to Ghana to be there to celebrate their elections, I think.
Like,
Yeah.
what is the economic benefit to Angelenos for this?
Right. How does this help Los Angeles?
I mean, I don't
It
get it.
doesn't. I mean,
Doesn't?
the Biden administration, the chef's kiss here, the Biden administration were the ones that sent her. They said they sent her on a military plane for the diplomatic mission, stay in constant contact with officials on the ground. I don't think this is a great idea. I think that mayors should stay where they're supposed to be governing.
Well, but her head staff guy, he was like, "Oh no, it's fine because with technology these days, she can govern from Ghana." Like he literally said, "We have tablets." No, that doesn't replace you being physically present in the city for which you are responsible. The city that elected you to take care of them in situations like this. It's just absolutely infuriating.
I do have to say, classy move from Rick Caruso as the finger pointing goes around, and this was very encouraging.
Well,
He
help to
used
set
the
up
flag.
a little bit on this. Rick Caruso is the guy who ran for mayor and narrowly lost to Karen Bass. He would have been such an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead. I just want to make sure people knew about that part.
Yeah, so Rick Caruso narrowly lost an election in the 11th hour. And he writes, fellow Angelinos, the devastation to our city and our community is unthinkable. The colossal efforts of our Los Angeles Fire Department cannot be overstated, and lives, homes, and businesses have been saved thanks to their unwavering commitment to fighting a good fight. But this fight is far from over. Due to budget deficits in the Los Angeles Fire Department, which left them under-resourced, the inconceivable has become reality, and Karen Bass was the one that cut it.
Yep.
Los Angeles Fire Chief Crowley and her team of firefighters and paramedics are desperately in need of funding. Today, Tina and I pledged $5 million to the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation to be used at its discretion so that Chief Crowley and her team can continue their heroic work across the city and the greater Los Angeles area. I'm calling on all of those who are blessed with the means to give back at any level and respectfully ask you to join in reaching the goal of $20 million in donations to the foundation. Classy.
What is
Classy
$20
out of
million,
it.
by the way? That's how much the fire department was cut by Karen
Right.
Bass.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's true.
So
Yeah,
you're smart.
someone in the chat says, "Did I see Kamala's house got looted?" Yes, in fact, her
Oh my
Brentwood
gosh.
home. She evacuated. Well, she wasn't there, but the staff evacuated the home, and they arrested 2 burglars at her house Saturday, I think it was. So, yep.
Yeah, speaking
Even
of
Kamala-
politicians, I mean,
Mm,
the new senator, Adam Schiff, right?
mhm.
He gets on ABC, completely, totally lies through his teeth, talks about that reservoir, the Palisades Reservoir. It was full when the fires broke out. And the guy interviewing him, Jonathan Carl, just lets it pass. Like,
Oh my
Like
gosh.
what? Hello? It was empty. Are you talking?
It was completely empty.
offline.
Right.
There was
No.
We have
there was nothing there.
photographs.
There wasn't a drop. What are you talking about? So it just I mean, give me a break.
Mhm. Ugh.
Yeah, you saw Gavin Newsom went on Pod Save
Oh.
America. Says there's
Pod
responding
Save
to
America
those-
is that Obama Bros podcast, and they were raising money for. They said for the firefighters, but it all went through Act Blue, which they got their 4%, and it went to like the LGBT firefighter fund or something or whatever. It's all political.
Oh my gosh.
Rather than
Yeah.
Caruso goes right to the actual firefighter fund.
So
Yeah.
my
And
question
Gav-
here, Gavin Newsom's not look great, in my opinion. Does it even matter? Like, does this impact his larger political ambitions, do you think? Like, is this like an Afghanistan level pullout for Biden?
It could be. It could be. It still, I mean, the thing is, it does involve people's livelihoods. And it's not like, it's truly an embarrassing moment. It's catastrophic. It's all because of a minnow. They're pouring
The smell.
millions of watt. Yeah, some little minnow. You're sacrificing thousands of homes because of this, because of a minnow, little fish. I think there is damage. I mean, we'll know again. We'll see what happens in the months ahead as people are starting to rebuild their houses. And it's funny because Gavin Newsom's like, I signed an executive order to cut the red tape to help rebuild this city faster. It's like, who put the red tape there to begin with, buddy? Because you and your party put red tape all over the place. You make it so darn expensive to build houses. It's incredible. And so, oh, wow, I'm going to remove the noose. Oh, you're so sweet. Like, you're so nice,
Yeah. And
But
he's
we'll
gonna.
see. I mean, if he decides that he's not going to run for re-election or something like that, that's going to be like 9 months to a year before you say, I don't even know if he's term limited out in California.
He is. Well, so he's not running for re-election according to reports in last November. So I think, he's not running for re-election, but obviously he has national ambitions, to Pogo's point. And I think it's a matter of if the legacy media will be able to memory hole this for him. And like you said, once people's homes are rebuilt, if they ever are, if they just forget, right? And
Well,
that's
How are they going to
I guess
rebuild
we'll
these
know
homes?
first, Tom, though. I guess we'll know first if there's a successful recall initiative of Karen Bass. If she gets recalled and then Rick Caruso runs for mayor again and gets elected, that's a sign that things are changing. If that doesn't happen, then California, I would just see, because I mean, you want to talk about U-Hauls leaving California. If they can't recall this woman after this.
Well, I actually saw some interesting. I was looking back over the stats on the populator. Of course, the Palisades voted for Kamala Harris. Everyone sees them as blue, but they actually majority voted for Rick Caruso over Karen Bass.
I saw that.
So it was a political
Interesting.
split. Yes, they voted at the top Kamala Harris.
Oh,
but
and their reservoir's
Caruso's very
empty.
popular.
Shocker.
Right. So I think there's actually a better chance of what you're saying of her getting recalled and then Rick Caruso coming back, especially as he's been acting. I feel like recently there's been a lot of people acting very presidential and very
Leadership.
magnanimous leadership-wise,
real
not
leadership.
in government, strangely. Imagine that.
Well, Rick Caruso, he's got a whole commercial properties. He's got like a shopping mall and all this stuff in LA. And he hired private companies because they heard, it's dry. The Santa Ana winds are going to be coming in gusting. So he brings in a bunch of water tankers, rolling in on the trucks, hires a bunch of people, kept his whole part safe. And of course, The Guardian, the far left-wing rag at the UK, was like attacking him for it. It's like,
Right.
what, for doing his job, protecting the livelihood and the people that count on him.
He could have done this for you.
Well, the thing is, like, he could have been saving the city so much. I mean, this is like the city was like, oh, great, someone's taking care of themselves. But he pays taxes on those properties. He had just as much right as every other Angelino to the good governance of the Los Angeles
But
city.
he did. He's like, I'm not going to compel them to do it.
Right. So he's
But then Jen Psaki, you saw that, right? Jen Psaki attacks Donald Trump. It's like, now hold on a second. Donald Trump is actually not yet president. I know we still got another week to go here on this.
Yeah.
You have Karen Bass, far left progressive Democrat, as the mayor of Los Angeles. You have Gavin Newsom as a far left governor of California. And the legislature has been deep blue for this entire century. So who exactly, she's like, we got to find a Republican to blame. Donald Trump. Like, I'm sorry. Wait, he's been out of power for 4 years. He doesn't start his next term for 7 days. How is this his fault? It's almost like they're lying.
the line.
Pray for LA. I did see some reports of someone said that their house was saved because of the Epiphany blessing. I haven't looked into that too deep.
I saw that. I don't know if it's real, but I'm
Very
gonna
cool.
I want to check it out. Yeah.
If so, I saw Mary statues kind of survived in a couple places. I definitely believe in the power of prayer, no question on that. So pray for LA.
Yeah.
Pray for the fires to come to an end.
I mean, the statues thing, I think it's very kind of a cute story, but it's, to me, less miraculous because it's out of concrete where the houses are all made of wood. This one house that Jesse Romero was talking about, he's a really cool guy, a Catholic guy. He mentioned on his podcast or whatever, that the house is the only house that was still standing in the neighborhood. And it was this Catholic lawyer and movie producer, and he did the Epiphany prayer around the whole house and stuff like that. And he was in a state of grace. And he comes back and everything is devastated in the whole neighborhood and his house isn't. He's like, whoa. So,
Really cool.
Again, there's a whole discussion of like the theology of evil. It's like, why do these things happen? And there's a far left Catholic crazy type guy, Mike Lewis, who made the point that Mel Gibson went on
This was bad.
the Joe Rogan podcast, and then he gets done, that Joe Rogan being right wing and bad, quote unquote. And as he gets done with this interview, Mel Gibson's home burnt to the ground, and Mike Lewis used it as an opportunity to dunk on the guy and say,
God will not be mocked, I believe.
Exactly. And I think to myself, I don't really like to play this kind of game, but if you wanted to, there was that stand-up comic that made a joke about how all the people during the award ceremony on the previous Sunday, they were all talking about how they were thanking their crews, their loved ones or whatever. And God of the universe, how often did he get mentioned? 0 times. And it was just like, what, do you really need to go there? It just seems like you're making fun of it. Like, and what happened? The next day, the fire started. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, be careful what you say for. I don't want Kamala Harris's house to burn down. I don't want Mel Gibson's house to burn down. I don't want anyone's house to be burned down. I don't wish ill upon my enemies. The thing is that the progressive left has this notion that, you should be silenced if you don't say the right words. You should lose your job, all this kind of stuff. You should be removed from polite society. Donald Trump should be lawsuited out of, running for office again. They don't want to actually argue and have a free discussion of ideas. They want to do everything to shut you down, to silence you, to make sure they shut down your bank accounts so that you can't operate. The NRA, they went after the bank accounts. Like, you shouldn't be able to. It's insane. Yeah. And so again, what has been, they're the ones who always preach about what we need to have civility and democracy. And they're the ones who are the most fascist, and they want to shut everyone down. It's sickening.
Did you see the headline from Axios on that point?
Oh, no. What's the headline from Axios? The gift that keeps on giving.
So, we talked about Zuck, being all free speech and all that. And so, very good things. But Axios' headline, this is just such a classic lefty media trope. Under Meta's newly relaxed moderation policies, women can be compared to household objects. Ethnic groups can be called filth. Users can call for the exclusion of gay people from certain professions, and people can refer to a transgender or non-binary person as it.
Well, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you understand what free speech and expression means? It's not protecting speech that you like. It's actually protecting the speech you don't like.
Right.
But of course,
That's
what are they doing
what
here?
it
It's like,
is.
this is a largely positive development, right? And instead of living under this bizarro world, dystopian news speak and proper speak and thought crime era that we lived in the last 4 years, we can actually say what we think online, and the good things can rise to the top and the bad things can fall down.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like going
And
and
guess
finding
what?
the most extreme.
Guess what, Axios? You can call me a white Christian nationalist, and I'll be like, that's your right to say that. I'll
Yeah.
argue with you. You shouldn't call me that, but
Well, they were allowed to
that's
say
never
that.
mind.
They were allowed to say that before, though.
That's true.
under their
That's
regime.
true.
But I mean,
yeah,
like-
before we leave the LA fires and like the miracles and the statues and everything, I did just want to like bring up what I think, and not to get corny, but like the real miracle is here, because people will be like, oh, don't be superstitious, you're so like, oh, you put your Mary statue in so your house didn't burn down or something, and that's not the point at all, because we also have the example of the Halpin family right now, and this is so moving to me. We played them. They were the family standing in the ashes of their home singing the Regina Coeli. We played it last week, and since then they've given an interview which I watched, and you can watch it at National Catholic Register. And they listening to this older couple, they're probably 70s, talking about this disaster, losing everything in their home, but listening to the peace and even joy with which they're talking about this disaster, how they stood there singing. They were like, we were there just to pray. We knew everything was gone. We weren't able to recover anything from our family home. We just went to thank God for all the memories we had made there. And there was no bitterness, there was no resentment. And to me, that's the miracle of the Catholic faith. So like the statues are cool, like they didn't burn down. The guy with the epiphany water, also cool. God gives us
Mega
these really
cool.
whacked out miracles. But the actual miracle is the transformative power of Jesus Christ, that you can survive a tragedy like that and have so much joy and peace when you're talking about it. It's beautiful. I would highly recommend you check that out today.
Yeah,
Okay, I have something to follow up on that, actually.
please do.
They're not the only family that decided to sing after their home was destroyed. In fact, a very famous Hollywood actress and her family sang in Latin. Bette Midler.
No way. I did not know this about Bette.
It was actually kind of a touching moment. It was shared by People magazine. It was kind of sweet.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. It's not even sarcastic.
yeah. No, I just mean it's not. Wait. There we
Oh.
go.
Anyway,
Is that her family, or is that she's sharing the help?
she shared it on Instagram.
Oh, that's so great.
Let's see.
Aw.
This was the video that we shared from last time, Josh.
Oh, she shared that video.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. So she
Yeah,
she
pretty
put
cool.
this out.
Even
Yeah.
she found that really moving. Yeah, that's great. I'm
Very
fan.
nice.
It's like it's made it to People magazine and everything.
Aw.
All right, Josh. Moving on. Jumping the ship. Jack Smith is the latest. 3 prominent resignations in the past. It's getting pretty popular these days. Chris Wray, the first, announcing in December he would resign from his position as the head of FBI before Trump took office.
Bye-bye.
Just did a 60 Minutes interview, if you're curious on why. He also, Jack Smith, tendered his resignation this past Friday. Smith has been compiling and supposedly completed an investigative report on Trump's alleged involvement in the 2020 election interference. And then finally, my personal favorite, Jennifer Rubin, prominent liberal columnist
Yes.
at the Washington Post, resigned today, calling Trump the most acute threat to American democracy.
She quit the Washington Post because she was upset that Jeff Bezos was friendly and did that Melania Trump documentary.
Right. And refused
she-
to endorse Harris, too. Right. Refused
She's
to endorse.
also deciding to join forces with this other guy to do a new publication that's going to be called The Contrarian.
Ooh.
which is kind of amazing if you
Oh
think
my
about it, because
gosh,
Jen
no.
Rubin went from being, a knee-jerk conservative Republican voice to being a knee-jerk Democratic voice.
And he's still jerking.
I don't think the contrarian part is the right word there.
No,
More like hired hand,
exactly. Yeah. No, you don't.
the stenographer.
You don't get to be a contrarian. Mercy's a contrarian.
The exact quote here is the contrarian will offer daily columns, weekly features, podcasts, and social media from me and fellow pro-democracy contrarians. Is she assuming that we're not? What are you talking about?
She loves democracy so much that she's resigning her post because democracy produced Trump. I mean, that's how much
Maybe she actually believes what the thing that she's saying now. I don't know, but what drives me crazy is so many on the left, they make these accusations and they're so full of crap. Like Barack Obama was basically saying that Donald Trump was Hitler, and then they sit next to each other at Carter's funeral like they're yucking up like real buddies. Wait, you're sitting next to the next Hitler who's going to take power in a week, and you're just no, you're all buds, no big deal. You're cracking jokes, and Kamala's turning around and getting mad at you. It's almost like it's a game for these people. They don't believe it. But there are Americans that listen to what these leaders say, and they take it for truth. Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Really
I have
Hitler.
family members leaving the country because they took this for truth. I do. No, I have a family member who's moving to Australia, and it's because they have been listening to these people and taking it seriously. So yeah, when I saw Obama, yes,
wow.
I am serious.
Talk about bearing the lead, girl. This is amazing.
No, I have a cousin who is moving to Australia ahead of the inauguration because she believes that LGBT people are going to be put in concentration camps, that Hitler is taking power on Monday, and she can't stay here. She can't stay in a country where 50% of the people would. Yeah.
Wait a second.
Wait, why don't you believe me? You know this is happening. Ellen DeGeneres left.
People always make this threat, but they never go through on it. You're saying your cousin is actually packing her bags.
Yes. Yes.
Erica, is she not familiar with Australia's recent history of putting people in camps?
I don't think those camps were a bad thing. Some camps are okay, but not the ones Trump's going to build. Yeah, no. Vaccine.
I'm talking about the
COVID camps. No, those were legit detainment camps.
Yes,
people
I'm
were.
Sure her cousin thought those were great.
Of a piece. Please pray for my family. I would appreciate prayers, everyone in the chat. My mom's probably listening to this being like, I can't believe I saw that.
I love that Erica's the black sheep of the family.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Depends who you talk to.
Wow. All right. I don't even, I'm almost
speechless. But speaking of, it's all a game to them. You saw Trump's sentencing on Friday, right? I assume we're going to talk about this. He's got no jail time. It just was so.
No fine.
No fine.
All he wanted to be able to do is to stamp, that little moniker.
No, he's a convicted felon. Boom.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, we're being a little bit cute about that. They sentenced him for the novel financial crime.
This is not Jackson
committed. But my favorite tweet on that, and I love this meme template, is, let me share this. They're like, we got him. So it said, now you can call him a convicted felon. And the meme template is Chris Paul. It's a YouTube video. Chris Paul hits huge three to cut the lead down to 42.
You're only ahead by 42.
I love this meme template so much.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So
but it's just infuriating because it just brings home the point that the whole thing is political. It was a game. Didn't work out. Trump still got elected. We're just gonna slap the title on him and move on. Moving on. He didn't really do anything bad because if he had, he would have sentenced him to something.
But I mean, never Trump or Stephen Hayes. He used to be a conservative at the Weekly Standard thing for that thing shut down. He went to the Dispatch, and then I think he got kicked over to something else. But he was on these morning talk show hosts. They love the Never Trumpers, and he's like, even he had to admit, Trump is at the apex of his power. All these cases done. People that took a shot at him, humiliated. He's going to get every cabinet member he wants probably, and his agenda.
All right, we have more Australian expats in the chat. No, American expats in Australia in the chat. Thank you. Someone else's cousin is also moving to Australia. See, it's I'm not making it up. It's really happening.
If you would like to look forward to the future,
You think
What
I
we
don't
have.
believe? I mean, I'm
So we're,
struck.
like, moving
I don't
on.
think you're lying, girl. I'm just shocked. That's
Yeah,
all.
no, I was pretty shocked too.
All right, so shout out to my boy Ryan Raisins. I believe he works in Senator Langford's office and college
This is great.
classmate of mine at Ave Maria.
Oh, he's got work to do if he's in Langford's office. Let me tell you.
Yes, he does. But JD Vance went on Fox News, did an interview, had some tough questions. I'd say I was actually impressed, and it's just so refreshing listening to JD Vance talk. So we'll watch this clip and we'll talk about it.
Say those egregious things that you cite that I would think all Americans are against.
Sure.
That's a small fraction of the millions of people who are here, who have built lives. Many of them have been here for decades.
So you do have hundreds of thousands, maybe even 1 million people who, in addition to crossing into the border illegally, have also committed some measure of violent crime. So it's actually a very large number of people, Shannon. And the point is that if you want to fix the overall border crisis, you have to engage in law enforcement. We can't buy into this lie, really from the extreme left, because I agree with you. Most Americans want common sense border enforcement. We can't buy into this lie that law enforcement at the American southern border is somehow not compassionate to families who want to cross illegally. Our number one responsibility is compassion to our fellow Americans, and that starts with enforcing the southern border. You cannot have a country of law and order, of stability, of basic good governance unless you get control of what Biden has left us at the American southern border.
I mean, it's
President
like
Trump
it
is committed.
almost makes me feel like that. There's the meme that goes around the internet where Don Draper's like totally drunk and he gets up there and he's making the pitch.
The pitch. Yeah.
And people use it to just talk about the craziest things in the world. It's like, what if we actually, I don't know, had a American
border
government for our own citizens?
Yeah, it is that.
Oh, like our first responsibility to the people in our own country. Like, wow, it's kind of radical.
I think this is all obviously connected. I mean, I hear this and we talk about the looting going on in California. It's impossible to have a functioning nation that works unless you have law and order. Like the concept of justice.
And it's not working right now because we don't have it.
Quite obviously not working right now. We've lost the idea of justice. And justice, we need to have justice delivered by the people that we put in charge to govern us. You can't have a functioning society without a shared concept of justice. And of course, it's completely unjust to have a wild southern border in which just about anyone can walk over because they can walk into Army Reserve camps and take Humvees, or they can loot celebrities' homes in LA.
Right.
Like people are thinking, this is so unthinkable. Why would someone do that to a fellow American? Well, one, a lot of them are not Americans and have no loyalty and have no buy-in to what we're trying to do and create here in American. So it's obvious to me that those people would not care about their neighbor, especially if they're whipped up on, oh, they're rich, they can afford it, whatever, who cares if they burn down? But it's common sense here. And actually a very Catholic sentiment to what's the idea of subsidiarity? At first you owe to God, then you owe to yourself, then you owe to your neighbor, specifically the closest to you. I think Ryan Raisins brought up in this thread that specifically Thomas Aquinas says citizens, he uses the word citizens, the people around you, nearest you, are owed that justice, that compassion first. And it's like, what were we doing the last 4 years? I mean, obviously you look at Biden saying stuff now. I think recently this is a complete counter to, he just extended the temporary protected status for 900,000 people using a Bush era law with the DHS. So this is 1,900 Sudanese, 103,000 Ukrainians, 232,000 Salvadorians, and 600,000 Venezuelans, which if Venezuela causes you to pause, yes, because we have legitimate Venezuelan gang activity going on in our country, which is just crazy to say out loud, will now be able to stay in the U.S. for another 18 months. This program was created by Congress in 1980 to grant legal work authorization and deportation protections to immigrants from countries suffering from natural disasters.
Well, and this is the mechanism when we covered Springfield, Ohio, and remember the cats and the dogs and all that. TPS, or temporary protected status, is the mechanism by which these working class American towns are being completely overwhelmed by the increase in population. And that's even not considering the violent gangs. Look at the Venezuela numbers. Venezuelan gangs are the ones occupying apartment complexes in Colorado. This is insane. It's the definition of insanity.
But the biggest part of that TPS that bothers me is that T says
temporary, right?
Temporary. I used to live in Northern Virginia, and they had granted temporary protective status to people, involved. Like it was like a Nicaraguan mudslide or earthquake or something that happened in 2001. They were still there when Trump was sworn in office in 2017. It's like 16 years doesn't sound temporary. I mean, that's a kid being born and going halfway through high school.
Right.
Like, no, like
which is the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, the purpose of a system, but like you can yell at, well, you guys don't seem like you're doing things right. It's like this is on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The elites in this country do this on purpose. They want it to be like this. They call it temporary protective status, but it's not. Biden wants these people here for 20 years, 40 years, 60 years. They don't care.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't think he's awake at the wheel right now, personally.
Well,
Yeah,
whoever signed the document the same
Right.
way.
Yeah, I loved in this interview that he brought up the word compassion, because I think that in the church is where we get the controversy, right, within the Catholic Church about, well, how do we deal with migration and immigration? And like we get people telling us, oh, mass deportation is against Catholic social teaching and blah, blah, blah. And the word compassion there, because we all want to serve the gospel and we all want to be compassionate. But when we apply reason to it, the way that he does in this thread here, and the way that JD Vance does, we have to realize that our compassion must be ordered. We can't treat everyone in our lives with the same measure of responsibility for them. And I think he brought up the example of a mother and multiple children. We would expect her to prioritize the needs of her own child. And it would be weird if I just like walked into a daycare and there's 35 babies running around and I ignore my own children and start like trying to care for all of them. It's not going to help any of those children.
Yeah,
And-
well, even to take that point, like another example of that, like if you're in your house and you're taking care of your kids and you see someone like a thief run across, go into someone's house, rob across the street, and you see that, like, oh, I'll just leave my kids inside this house. Little tiny Erica go across the street and try to apprehend the criminal. Like, that would be really dumb. Like,
or offer him a sandwich. Be like, hey, come welcome the stranger. Come to my house and have lunch with us. No.
But like this idea that what JD Vance is saying is that we should our own government, the people we elect. It's our government. These are people we elect. They're supposed to represent the citizens of the country, and they should take care of the needs of the citizens first. And anytime we say that, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't let millions of people come into our country illegally. Maybe we should stop that. And then we're called racist, xenophobic, bigoted for wanting to prioritize the needs of the compassionate needs of our people. Like we have devastated, people in North Carolina who are still living in tents for, months after this hurricane hit. Now we have a situation in Los Angeles that's going to take a lot of need and help. Like we should prioritize our citizens. But I don't know. I mean, maybe Jen Rubin, you just mentioned her, she got fired. Maybe she should go around.
She resigned.
Right. She should go around LA where all these victims who lost their homes and say, would you like to donate to Ukraine? Like that would be on spot for her.
Wait, do you know other notable celebrity that stopped by LA with cameras?
Do tell.
Meghan Markle.
Oh, I saw that. She's like hugging people in the shelters. Oh.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry doing photo ops down in LA, just something perfect. The Stop Paying Attention to Me tour continues, man.
Wow.
But I don't want to dwell on that too much. I just cannot know who asked for these people. Why are they being served me? I cannot believe I've seen so much more about them than I've ever wanted to know, and I do not want to see them ever again.
If she didn't have such a colossal ego, she could have. I mean, every celebrity tends to be a little bit too much, egotistical. But at least they would understand, like, you have to pretend like you're humble. She doesn't do it. She's like, all me. She worships herself. She could have had decades of glowing media treatment. Everyone would have loved her, like royalty.
Oh my gosh,
like
literally. Royalty. And
yes,
they left.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Literally royalty, Josh.
Yeah.
She totally blew it.
Fumbling the bag, as it were. I mean, she's like GOAT status of ruining family relationships. If you can estrange someone from the royal family of England, that is like, you are tippity top. But I want to get into, Erica, I saw you had this as one of your Twilight Zones, so maybe I'll steal it a little bit. I want to have a bigger conversation about it.
All right.
So Mel Gibson went on Joe Rogan. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience listened to this. I haven't listened to the whole thing. I've just seen clips, full transparency. I thought it was very interesting and compelling. Mel Gibson is a very
I actually
compelling individual.
watched an hour and a half of it, which is like
So you did?
it's the most I've watched of any Rogan interview in like the last year since I had the baby, basically.
Okay.
But I made time.
So let's start with this clip, and then I have a question after this clip. This is what you had to share, Erica. Here
Oh,
we go.
I love this one.
The first canonized saint. You know who it was?
No.
The first ever confirmed canonization as a saint was Dismas. You know who Dismas was?
No.
He was the thief on the cross next to Jesus.
Oh.
And he says to him,
Rogan.
"You're going to be
Rogan's like,
okay. This day you'll be with me." Unbaptized, criminal, all that stuff. So
Wow.
the lawmaker is above the law. So there's a lot of mercy.
Okay,
love
now,
it.
can I just say, like a lot of the twitching, like is he
He
on a
he's
substance
crazy.
of some kind? I
He's
mean,
a
I
little
kind of
nuts.
worried about him. I mean, like
yeah. Well, the whole thing was like that. He's Mad Max. He's a little crazy. Can you just click my next one?
Yeah.
I just want to click my next one.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
This was my take on it. This is Catholic guests on Joe Rogan podcasts. We had Bishop Barron as Tiger Woods. Mel Gibson's the crazy uncle smoking the cigarette on the golf
Wait,
course.
do you know who that is? Okay, and finally get to test you. Who is that?
I don't know who the guy is. I don't
John
know who
Daly.
that is.
Who's ignorant now? That's
I know.
John Daly. Come on
Well,
now.
there we go. Gosh.
Legendary golfer, golfs barefoot.
I don't know who John Daly is, but I do know how we acquired Alaska. Let's just,
Yes.
point that out. I don't know if the scales are even, but we'll let the audience be the judge of
Although-
that.
from
I
the
did.
top rope.
Listen, I got an email also saying my pronunciation of Seward's purchase is correct from an Alaskan Josh.
Ah, well, whatever.
Get
That's
wrecked.
fine.
Seward was not Alaskan. All right,
Erica,
anyway.
could you just
They have a
give
city named
overall-
after him up there, so
All right. Erica, you listened to most of this interview. Overall
Yeah.
thoughts on Mel on Rogan?
I love listening to crazy people, and he is a little bit off his rocker, but it was an incredible witness from a hands down massive Hollywood celebrity, huge. I'm a huge fan of his for The Patriot, for Braveheart, obviously, and The Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto, and he talks about his movie career throughout the interview, but he's someone who, watching Rogan try to understand him was awesome. And I think he got under Rogan's skin in a way that like a Bishop Barron didn't, because he is more emotive. He is more artistic in the way that he presents his faith. Now, that being said, if you go watch it, he is a sedevacantist. He does not believe that the Catholic Church under Francis is actually the Catholic Church founded by Christ anymore. He thinks it's like this weird parallel church, and like
no,
he
he's
goes
taught
into
that since Vatican II. So it's not
yeah.
just a
Since John the
Francis.
23rd, he goes even further back. He's like John the 23rd was a false, but anyway, which was also kind of interesting. And he's a little
Yeah, because of
kooky.
Vatican II. That's what I mean.
Right. Well, and
John
the
called
way that
John
He
called
does
the
this-
Second Vatican Council. So these guys
Yeah.
say he must not have been right.
yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
that too, and he goes into this like white smoke, black smoke during the conclave thing, which I had never
Yeah.
heard before. And it was great. So all that being said, the overwhelming message was that the world is shot through with meaning, and there are these great spiritual powers. There is a spiritual war going on above us, and we human beings, for some reason, play a pivotal role in it. And Mel Gibson's like, my whole career, everything I have tried to produce is trying to understand that. Why is the human person this little puny thing? We get sick, we die, we kill each other. Why are we so important? And that's the whole thing I'm trying to understand through these movies I make. And I think that got under Rogan's skin more than
Resonated.
any of the high level 30,000 foot, philosophical explanations he's seen. It was
Okay,
it
but
was just a really cool interview.
Got under his skin or resonated?
Well, resonated. Thank you. Not like annoyed him, but like
okay. All right.
Like got past
piqued
the
his
surface.
interest. Got past the surface of it, right? In a
Made
way
a dent.
that made a dent.
So that poses this larger question that I wanted to bring to you because I've been thinking about it a lot over the weekend. And I'm a Rogan head. I've been very apparent. I've been upfront about that. So shout out Eric Salmons over at, is it Crisis Point?
Yeah, Crisis Point. We love you,
Crisis
Eric.
Point. Asked a good question over the weekend. I've been thinking a lot about who would be the best Catholic to represent the faith on Joe Rogan's podcast. Too many Catholics first think of people who are very successful in the Catholic world at explaining Catholicism, people like Scott Hahn or Father Mike Schmitz. These apologists are great and do a lot of good, but I don't think they would be the best on a show like Rogan's. To be successful on Rogan, you need to understand the Rogan audience and the Rogan culture. It's best if you are or were a part of that culture. It's very masculine and also very skeptical of institutional claims, including claims by the most influential institution of them all, the Catholic Church. So people who represent the institution like priests or bishops or professors of Catholic theology or even Catholic media figures and podcasters like me would not be taken as seriously. It needs to be a Catholic with no career connection to the church. I don't have anyone in particular in mind, but honestly, I think Mel Gibson did a great job. Even if I disagree with his suggestions of sedevacantism in the episode, his willingness to criticize church officials for covering up sexual abuse and other problems actually gives him credit with Rogan and his audience, so they are more likely to listen to his belief in the resurrection. Someone like Kevin James, who is a comedian like Rogan and a faithful Catholic, might also be good. He actually already did do an episode with Kevin James. I did listen to it. It was good. Do you have any other ideas? Do you guys have any quick thoughts on who would be successful in a place like Rogan?
Like Mark Wahlberg would be, because he's an actor and he could talk about, his journey. I mean, again, the idea, like, you don't want someone who would just be, I think nothing against like Scott Hahn or something like that. You don't want just a traditional, like, someone
Apologist.
explains, the Catholic faith necessarily. I don't think that would be as interesting. So like, that's why Mel Gibson or Mark Wahlberg, who's sort of lived that life, which Rogan has from the entertainment world and could speak to, but I lived in that entertainment world, but I still I like the Catholic Church's understanding of redemption, and I love Jesus because of this and that. Like, that's actually kind of interesting. More to Joe Rogan, I think it'd be more compelling.
I think Mercer should go on.
No, you misread the question. He said no podcasters, no Catholic podcasters.
Oh, okay. No Catholic podcasters. Everyone's a podcaster, though. I mean, everyone.
That's true. It was kind of funny. Like, people in the comments instantly like Michael Knowles or Taylor Marshall. I'm like, okay, literally Catholic podcasters. You said it already.
And apologetics guys.
Yeah, not somebody who's used to giving like these long answers. Nothing against those people per se, but
yeah.
Yeah, and I want to hear in the chat what you guys think about that. Rosie, if you could throw that maybe in the chat. So I'm curious on suggestions. I've been thinking a lot about this. Funny, I think we were talking about before with Rosie, and at first it was like, no, not Father Michael Schmitz, not Father Michael Schmitz. I consume some of his stuff, but not a ton. I actually do think he would make a very interesting episode because he is such a traditionally masculine guy. I mean, you look at him, he's like, he works out, he's a stud, and he's so well-spoken, and he brings a masculine energy that I think would work on Rogan. But I think he would need to be so authentic about his mission his vocation to the priesthood and how he arrived there and what his life was like before. I'm curious if he would be comfortable reaching that level of authenticity, because I know he has a very public ministry, and when you're a priest, new things come with that. That being said, I think I would like to see a man of the moment right now, but Marcus Freeman, I think, would be a good example of someone I would like to see on there.
You're talking about the Notre Dame coach?
Notre Dame coach. Partially because I think what Erica was describing about what worked on Rogan was that he's clearly authentic. Maybe he's a little crazy, but he clearly penetrated that like surface level of interest. And I think for me as a Rogan listener, I like hearing from Catholics, and I love the JD Vance interview for this reason. I like listening to people that are doing excellent things and are well-spoken, masculine, unapologetic about that. That have Catholicism as almost the unspoken North Star of everything that they're doing, and an inspiration for them to achieve the excellence.
Even if they don't talk about it 9 to 5 all the time.
Yeah.
I'd say actually, especially if they don't talk about it 9 to
Right.
5, because I think as a man, just personally, I'm very skeptical of overly preachy people that talk too much, unless they're a priest, because that's kind of your job. And that honestly might just be a flaw of myself. I'm just saying, for me, I'm more likely to listen to someone and like, oh my gosh, this guy, leader of men, super inspiring, had a cool conversion, brought back an old tradition in Notre Dame. There's something clearly compelling about him. I want to know how that makes him tick, how he's able to accomplish that, and what he credits for the ability to do so.
You want someone who's not thought to be one-dimensional, even if that's not the case. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I think, like, I was thinking of, I did an interview with a guy who John Edwards, the guy in the pew, or the Catholic guy in the pew, just a guy in the pew. And I did the interview with him like 2 years ago, but he has an incredible story of he was raised Baptist and then he went through like drugs and like alcohol, isolation, all of it, and then became Catholic. I guess the difference would be that now he makes his living like as a Catholic podcaster. But I think conversion stories are really powerful as well. But the point you're making about Catholicism not being the explicitness of it, the apologetics aspect of it, having it be more organic. I love that because I think it's the same principle in Catholic art, like film and literature and poetry. If you're like, I'm going to make a Catholic film, it's going to be bad. Like it's going to not bad. It's going to be like B level quality because you're trying too hard. But if you just depict reality and the truth of life and just speak the truth without being like, and this is Catholic teaching, it's so much more powerful in a way because I think it connects people who don't have the lingo or the jargon of Catholicism yet. So I like that approach. Either
and to me, I think that's going to be much more successful, especially with young men. But then that could be the mustard seed for them to then go to the Father Mike Schmitz or the Rippingers or people that are deeper theologically, and you want to get inundated in like a Catholic intellectual life. But I think to start, it's I haven't seen much success when people really come over the top.
Well, I think what it gets to is that people don't necessarily want Christian media, quote unquote, per se. Most people want the kind of media that was made when Christianity was the default.
100%. Right.
And Rosie's now chatting with me about this. So we argued about this morning, and specifically when it came to, I think Candace Owens was the flashpoint because she's had a very public Catholic conversion, and I think Rosie was pointing out she was wrong on a few things. So the question is, do they need to be well catechized to go on this show? Is that important to you? I actually fell on the other side of that argument. Well, I think that would be a plus. I think that part of the problem with doing anything publicly is that everyone has their blind spots at ignorance and things they need to learn. And so you could just be wrong about something that you learn and later amend later. But in order to just put anything out there, you know you're going to be wrong about stuff. You might not know where Alaska came from. And I think that the honesty, the intellectual honesty and authenticity that comes through of you going on a place like Rogan and just being honest about where you are in life and what you're trying to accomplish and even in your own faith and not being right about everything is okay, because I think that authenticity is much more powerful, and the relentless pursuit of truth, even if you're wrong on something at one moment, actually has more net benefit than maybe the negative of maybe leading some people astray by being wrong. I think specifically it was on like the Catholic Church and science for Candace Owens. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, well, and for Mel Gibson, the set of vacantism, right? Like he's a heretic, right? He's split from the church, schismatic. Sorry, he's schismatic. However, I think that since we're talking specifically about Rogan and Rogan's audience, we got to understand who you're trying to reach. And yeah, it would be ideal world. It would be someone who's really well catechized, 100%, like all the ducks in a row. But where they're at with Rogan is we have a generation of young men watching him who think they know the Christianity that they've dismissed. They think they know what's wrong with the Catholic Church. The reality is, though, they don't even know the Catholic Church. So the role of a Rogan interview would be to actually spark their interest. And that's why I think Mel Gibson was so great, because he actually is pushing Rogan and say, look, Jesus Christ's resurrection, I mean, you got to answer that question for yourself, right? This is why Hollywood hated The Passion, because it's forcing them to confront the question of who is Jesus Christ. Yeah. And, you know, that's where we're at with the Rogan audience. We need to say, get these guys to realize, hey, I don't even know this Christianity that I have rejected.
What you just said reminded me of the really good Fulton Sheen quote.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're
There are not 100 people in the United States who hate the Catholic Church, but there are millions who hate what they wrongly perceive the Catholic Church to be.
Such a bar.
That's it. Such a bar.
People are bringing up Shia LaBeouf in the chat too, and I think this phenomenon actually occurred before our very eyes. Like Shia LaBeouf clearly has a past. He's not hiding from it. He's very honest about it. Takes on a very public role, becoming Padre Pio and living with monks and I think brothers. I can't remember exactly what it was. And has that kind of like crazy person intensity to him. I think to be an artist at the level of Mel Gibson and Shia LaBeouf, you have to be a little crazy.
They're a little crazy.
But isn't that, again, is what makes people interesting and compelling? Like if they weren't a little crazy, maybe you wouldn't care as much, or they wouldn't be able to articulate.
I wouldn't
their
have watched the
vision.
Rogan interview if he hadn't been crazy. I
Exactly.
was like, this is amazing.
So like for all the people that were like, don't talk to
Grab the
Shia,
popcorn.
I remember people were mad that Bishop Barron talked to Shia LaBeouf or had him on or embraced him the way that he did. And I think, again, this is the wrong approach. Like, it's actually a really good thing to just put that out there for people to consume. And whether or not you want to say is like good, bad, whatever in between, that's part of the magic of like learning and growing and becoming educated is you encounter people that are imperfect, but there's something in there that is interesting that might be able to lead you a little further down. I know for a fact this is what young men see because I feel like we live in a culture where you have to be perfect. Like think about all the things that you can get canceled for now. I feel like it's less so that, but at least my coming of age was in a time where like you could legitimately have your life ruined for saying the wrong thing at a certain time or we live in the social media era. Everything's recorded. Think about when you guys grew up, nothing was on camera, nothing's whatever.
Yeah,
and so people are just
a
scared to
rumor.
even be honest. I think I'm just speaking for myself. People are scared to be honest. And I think we're kind of hopefully coming to this new age where like honesty is going to become the new, I see it now with
It's
media.
a more important currency than ever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Why did podcasts bring Donald Trump to the presidency? Is because that honesty was there and it just was not. I mean, clearly, demonstrably lying was going on from the people that you were, quote, supposed to have trust in and the people that had the, quote, right opinions. They all ended up
Joe
being
Biden has never been more fit for office. Yeah, and you're
exactly
just like,
sharp as a tack.
That's why I thought Jan Crawford was really cool when, they had all the reporters around and they're talking about the institutions and she just like, the media, we got some work to do on this. And they're like, didn't want to hear that.
I don't want to do work.
Okay. I think I'll end it there. Now we move to the Twilight Zone. Erica, your other Twilight Zone was good though.
No, my other Twilight Zone was my meme that you already shared. So.
No. This is the Jeff Daniels.
That's
No,
me,
that's
bro.
Josh.
Oh,
That's
Josh. I'm sorry. Okay, Josh.
Yeah.
Josh, go for
No,
it.
I'm out of Twilight Zones. We've used both of them. So
Yeah, I mean, y'all
Josh,
just
take it away.
this. I guess I get the Twilight Zone all to myself. Well, so
Yay. He loves it.
there was this. There's this video clip of this moment from the TV show The Newsroom, Aaron Sorkin's show.
Yep.
Aaron Sorkin's, of course, he totally has captured the imagination. He understands the white progressive liberal self-hatred more than anyone on the planet. He did the West Wing, and then he went on to do The Newsroom. Jeff Daniels, I know you like him because he's a Lions fan, but
Dude, I like him for The Social Network, which is total fiction. I think is not very accurate, but was so good. It was such
Great
a good
movie.
One of my
so
favorites.
the Newsroom, there's this panel of different people up there, and they're asking these questions about and this young college student, attractive blonde, gets up there and asks, "Why do you think America is like the best country in the world or whatever?" And this clip just goes right to the id of every left-wing progressive liberal. They love this because she says, "Oh, America's so great." So I don't know if copyright can play.
We better not get copyrighted for this, but I'll play it. It's worth playing.
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Diversity and opportunity.
Lewis?
Freedom and freedom.
It's not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer. With a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math,
mansplaining?
22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number
Okay,
4
you
in
cut off
exports.
there.
We lead the world.
Yeah.
So he just goes on and dunks and talks about how
On and
crappy
on.
America is. By the way, liberals love this clip so much they share it all the time. And so some liberal decided to share it again because they do this all the time. America sucks, actually. And it got community noted on X. This is what's so great because it's Aaron Sorkin is such an idiot. He said, infant mortality 178th. No, we're 178th from the last. looked really good on infant mortality, you idiot. He reversed the statistics.
Oh my gosh.
So the whole thing, like this was like the apex of the dunk on this girl. Like, oh, you're such a buffoon. You're such an idiot. And they got it wrong.
Yeah.
They flipped that table upside down. Oh my gosh.
This is
Oh,
such
you
an
mean like
infamous
fewer
claim.
people died? Yeah. Like, oh, I mean,
I've
make it
seen
sound
this
like
so
we
many
were
times.
worse than like, Afghanistan or something like that. Give me a break.
Point
again,
on this, Josh. Point on this briefly. Tony says in the chat, Aaron Sorkin, for all his many faults, phenomenal writer. I have to agree. It reminds me of so like if you watch this, and many people do, as you're saying, liberals watching like Dunk on America, we're not that great. It is so well written, timed, and executed and acted that it makes you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where this got shared broadly. I've seen like 13.7 million views, and this gets shared like once every 2 months, and it always goes viral.
I know.
So people with this kind of talent have a lot of power to get across the messages that they want to get across. And to the point of Mel Gibson, like why did the passion resonate with so many people? It was well done.
Well, it's a great story, and at the end of the day, Mel Gibson's story was the one. It's not his story, but he wrote about is a true story.
Yeah.
At least in this, it's like this begins like 15, 20 years of progressives realizing conservatives are just dumb. They're patriotic buffoons, and we can dunk on them. And so what it's done, it's given them these fun little viral moments, but it's created muscle atrophy, intellectual atrophy amongst the left. They just dunk on the right, and they think they're so much smarter. And then all of a sudden they turn around and whoops, Donald Trump just got elected because we're not a bunch of buffoons. Like most Americans I talk to, they're not like, flag waving idiots. They actually love their country. They're honest about the mistakes that we've made in the past, and they're not like, jerks about it. They're not like, oh, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's funny that he uses the statistics that he does in the clip as if somehow that is what a measure of greatness is. Like how we stack up on some international metric for, what did he say?
I know, just because, wow, Russia might be better at us than math, but, they live in poverty and they don't have freedom. Like, I'd rather.
Right, and which is another form of wrong, I think, that we're fighting against here, too, in America. Like, is America just a arms race for accreditation that we can get our GDP as high as possible, that we can have the most talented engineers here? And, like, I would instantly push back, and that is not what makes America great. I mean, how do you quantify the connection that we have to our neighbor here? Like the idea for free expression, that we can defend ourselves, that we can build great things. We serve our communities. We worship in our churches. Like, to me, that's what makes America great. Good luck putting that on a map somewhere. Charitable giving, I would love to bring up as well. I believe we're highest in the world in that.
Yep.
And despite your conspiracy theories, we're the only country to be to the moon.
On that note,
we were the first country to deceive people to think we're on the moon.
You just look at the achievements. Like, to me, it's not just in like, oh wow, iPhones and stuff like that. Like, I think about great American achievements not just in the inventions that we create. I think about the boys holding up the flag at Iwo Jima, or liberating Europe. And by the way, there's great stories to be had, and as we get closer to our 250th anniversary, it's time to. I think it's going to be great that we're going to have President.
We're going to celebrate. It's going to be great. 1 week from today, we will have President Donald J. Trump.
It's going to be a rager.
Guys. Coming, guys.
It's going to be a rager. So we have Biden's farewell Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we have.
Do you think he'll mention immigration? How he secured the border?
There's a rumor that he was about to go do a military strike against Iran's nuclear stuff.
Oh,
and
my
God.
Trump
administration, he was like, do not
don't
start
do
a war.
Don't.
Like a week before.
1 week to go. Come on.
Literally, we were like, can you imagine how close to the brink we could have been? Like, that's just a rumor, but like that's crazy if that's true.
Oh, I believe it.
I don't love thinking about that. Hey, but if you'd like to help out the show, I got one ask for you today. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. Why? I will be on the ground in DC making a video of some kind. Most people are going to go and be, with the yuckity yucks. I'm going to be on the ground talking to the actual people.
Man on the street.
About the country. So go subscribe to the YouTube. Get ready for that. We also have the show and all
man
kinds
of the
good
people.
Stuff.
I love it. I love
Near
it.
the people. I'll be over
Can't
there.
wait.
It's gonna be sick. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. But of course, most importantly, pray for us. I'd like to give a special shout out to Father Liam. He just sent over a relic of Saint Fidelis, bone and cloak. And I held it in my hand before this episode. It is crazy that this is now in my studio. So thank you for that, Father Liam. Saint Fidelis, pray for us. Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. And St. Thomas More, pray for us. We will see you guys on the next episode, Wednesday, for Biden's farewell address. See you then.